webinar. I hope you're good. How are you doing? And that's really not just a question that we ask on a general basis, but it's a question that is so relevant to how we are doing in this country at this particular point in time. How are you doing? Are you doing well? Are you coping well? How are you able to manage the fuel, the money, and there's so many things that we have to just pass through at this point in time. I hope you're able to put it together. That's loaded for a lot of people. But we just have to find strength and resilience to be able to push through and then to be able to do what we have to do, knowing fully well that this time too shall pass. We have something really exciting for us today. And please quickly just pip somebody that we had started because you don't want to miss out on today's conversation. Today, we have something very relevant to what we are going through at this particular point in time. I bet it with you when we started out this year and then we were thinking about topics to choose. We never thought that we would be passing through a phase and a time like this. And today we're talking about emotional intelligence. Yes, Atubi, I can see your hand. Yes, we will have to cope well. Just drop your comments on the chat box. I will be glad to take it later. Just tell me about how you are doing. Just drop it on the chat box. I would love to read from you so we can understand how you're coping and how well you're doing at this point. All right, so as we move on to this conversation this afternoon, remember we have just 1 hour, and so we have to make do with this time that we have, and we have to be able to give you the best of all the information so that you can be able to maximize all that we have for you today. I want to invite the head of clinicals, Dr. Luane, who is going to formally welcome us to this webinar and to wish us a very lovely session. Over to you, Dr. Luane.
Good day, everyone. I have the great pleasures of welcoming you all to this month's episode of Yaba Voice. This is a platform dedicated to dissemination of mental health information, correction of misconception, and promotion of mental health. Today, we are looking at another important issue, emotional intelligence, and its relevance to mental health. The concept of emotional intelligence is a relatively recent psychological construct and is broadly defined as the ability to identify, assess, and manage one's emotions as well as that of others. It is increasingly being seen as critical to success in many areas of life. But today, we shall be looking at its relevance to optimal mental health. What exactly is emotional intelligence? What are the components or domains of emotional intelligence? Is it relevant to mental health? If yes, why and how? Is it possible to develop or improve one's emotional intelligence? These and many more are the issues that we will be deeply dissected today. And to do justice to this, we have on board two eminently qualified experts. The first person is Dr. Modupe Ola Motujesi, a senior consultant psychiatrist at Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Yaba, with more than a decade of active experience in the management of mental health issues. She is a fellow of the West African College of Physicians and a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. She also has a master's degree in managerial psychology from the University of Lagos and certifications from several international organizations. She's passionate about training, mental issues involving women, community mental well-being, and has several research publications to her credits. Modupe is the current head of the Emergency and New Assessment Unit of the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. A high level of emotional intelligence has contributed to our successful leadership in this department. Our second speaker is Francis Akikume, a seasoned and practicing clinical psychologist with many years of experience. He is also a minister of God with a high passion for integrity and excellence. He holds a bachelor's degree in pure and applied psychology, a master's degree in clinical psychology, and at present, a PhD student in clinical psychology at the University of Ibadan. Akikomi is a registered and licensed member of Nigerian Association of Clinical Psychologists, and at present coordinates research activities in the Department of Psychology, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Yaba, where he is an assistant director of psychological services. He is an emotional intelligence-driven personality with outstanding empathic attributes, good leadership skills, and passion for mentoring younger individuals. I want you all to sit back and listen attentively to our speakers as we discuss emotional intelligence, a must for mental stability. Thank you all.
Thank you so very much for that warm welcome, Dr. Oluwani. Dr. Oluwani had told us not just about our speakers today, but also he had also reiterated to us on what we are looking at today. And remember, we said the issue of emotions are very germane to issue of mental health and how well we are able to function. So he said, yes, it's about identifying, understanding, and getting to know what's going on within as well as with other people. And these are things that our speakers will also be elaborating on. Like I said, please recall someone that needs to be here that we had started this webinar, which is very germane to what we are going through in this country at this point in time. Also, please note that we are also streaming live on Facebook. And so you can join us as we go on in this month's episode of the Yaba Voice webinar. All right, so we'll go straight to the discussion for today. Dr. Omotojese, what is emotional intelligence and what are the pillars of emotional intelligence? So we have that foundation and that would help us to be able to run this conversation very well this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to first of all appreciate management of the Yaba Voice for this opportunity to talk about a very much needed topic in this basketball season, according to the Nigerian Palace, of a lot of issues and problems all over. I'm sure that there is none of us that has not experienced a lot of problems in the last few weeks. And when we look at, for those of us even in the diaspora, it's been a lot of challenges here and there. And so I believe that it is so timely to be talking about emotional intelligence. So what is this thing called emotional intelligence? Sometimes it is loosely used, sometimes it is technically used, but I believe our aim today is to break it down so that it is usable at every level. Individual level, organizational level, okay, in the society at large, at every opportunity you have. So what is emotional intelligence? A simple way of defining emotional intelligence is understanding who you are, developing you, and relating with you. So what essentially it is, in other words, it's your ability to identify what you are feeling at any given point in time. Being able to look at it critically and analyze why you are feeling it and how your feelings affect you and those around you. So it's very simple, pretty simple. So at every moment, you are going through a series of experiences and emotions and feelings within you. You must be able to say that, oh, I'm feeling quite irritable at the moment. Why am I feeling irritable? Is it that I'm hungry? Is it that someone has just upset me? Okay, that's identifying why. And then you're able to look at it that, okay, so this feeling, how is it affecting me? Is it affecting my productivity? Am I being unnecessarily snappy at people? Or and how it is affecting those around me? So it is kind of a very holistic definition of emotional intelligence. So what are the pillars of emotional intelligence? I look at it there are about 6 pillars, there are some explanations in different textbooks, and I'll look at it from these 6 basic approaches. One, the very first thing to be able to look at in terms of the pillars of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. it is like the very top thing, because you can't be talking about other pillars of emotional intelligence if you are not aware. So what is this self-awareness? Knowing your emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses, your drives, your values and goals, and recognizing its impacts on other people. Another pillar is self-regulation. So how are you able to manage your emotions at any given point in time? Do you give it back to people as they give it to you, which I understand is actually one of the core things we talk about in Nigeria. Okay, how can you just stand there? Why can't you just give it back? And he talks to you like that, and you were just staring at it. Just give it back like that, all right? How do you regulate your emotions at any given point in time? That is self-regulation. It is a key pillar of emotional intelligence, all right? Empathy. Empathy. This is not sympathy, right? It is empathy. Recognizing, understanding, and considering other people's feelings, especially when making decisions, all right? Do you just talk as you feel? I'm very upset, so it doesn't matter. I'm talking to my members of my team, and I'm just shouting at them because that is how I feel. I feel very, very upset. So I need to talk to them. I need to downgrade them. I need to degrade them. Is that what that is? Usually a lot of experience, a lot of ways we express ourselves. However, it is an opportunity for you to look at it. Empathy is recognizing, understanding, and considering other people's feelings, especially when you are making decisions. Motivation is a fourth that we're talking about. How do you inspire yourself, other people? A very key factor of emotional intelligence. The fifth pillar is social skills. So having understood that, okay, I'm supposed to be self-aware, I have self-regulation to a certain extent, I'm considerate of other people, I'm very inspirational towards myself and other people. So how am I able to relate with other people, okay, having all these experiences? All right. And the last thing, the sixth one that I have included is effective communication. Even when you have all this, you have self-recognition, self-awareness, if you cannot communicate appropriately and effectively, then you cannot be said to be fully emotionally intelligent. Thank you.
Dr. Motojesi, thank you so very much. Somebody wrote bag boss, emotional regulation. And that's the way it is for a whole lot of people. Dr. Omotojesi, in a few minutes, I know we don't have time, but maybe we'll just still go a bit gradually so that our viewers can grasp the main thing. But I love the way she started, and that is, who am I? Emotional intelligence helps you to answer the question of who you are. Have you been able to going on the voyage of self-discovery to understand who you are, how to develop yourself, how to relate with other people? Because like what she said, it's not just about you alone. It's about you associating with other people, learning and understanding how your emotions and every other thing affect other people and also affect you. That's that connection. And she went on to give us those pillars: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social interaction, and then effective communication is the sixth one that she added to it. And as we go on, we'll begin to look more about this emotional intelligence and how it relates to mental stability. But before we get there, now let's take a look at what are the indices of high or low emotional intelligence. Please remember, if there's anybody that needs to be here, please call them. Sometimes people will just say, you have low emotional intelligence. What exactly is it? They don't know. What are the indices? We really don't know. But we just tell people you have low emotional intelligence, you have high emotional intelligence. Now, Mr. Kikumi will be telling us what are the indices for either high or low emotional intelligence. Over to you, Mr. Kikumi.
Thank you so much for this opportunity again to also address this sensitive topic. So welcome everyone on board. The following are some of the indices I want to discuss that characterize an individual with low emotional intelligence. And after that, I go to those with high emotional intelligence. So an individual with low emotional intelligence are usually insensitive to the feelings of others, because they don't have the understanding to dictate and manage their own emotion or identify their own emotion. Identifying emotion in other people becomes difficult. So when people around them are sad, unhappy, excited, they are insensitive. People like this are difficult in interpersonal relationship because even when the other individual is breaking down emotionally, they see no reason to help. They do not take responsibility for their action. This is another crucial indicator that describe an individual with low emotional intelligence. Why? Because they will never take any responsibility for whatever happened to them. Rather, they blame others. They blame others. If they fail the exam, they blame their lecturer. If they are smoking, they are likely to cast the blame on their father or their mother. Rather than taking responsibility, they usually blame others. When you see someone like this, it's one of the indicators that this individual is low in emotional intelligence. Another factor you find in this individual is that they usually address life challenges with unhealthy habits. Whenever they are going through challenges like what we are experiencing now in the country, they are likely to go into drinking as a way of coping, or smoking, or sometimes they transfer aggression on people. It is a sign of low emotional intelligence. Furthermore, they have challenges controlling their emotional outbursts. Most of the time, when they are angry, they are likely to pull down the whole building. They are usually verbally abusive, physically abusive. Then they have difficulty forming close relationships. They hardly will be able to maintain. Even when they initiate, if possible, they find it difficult to maintain close interpersonal relationship with other people. They attack the person instead of the issue or challenges. Now, when there is any presentation in a place or there is an issue on ground, rather than addressing the issue, they usually attack the personality of the individual involved. Now, they easily give in to their urges. Most of these people are described or likely to be described as having inability to delay their gratification. So easily they are driven by their impulses. Now, on the other hand, I want to show you the characteristics of individuals who are high in emotional intelligence. These individuals, they understand the strategy to control their thoughts. Usually, following a thought, you have a feeling and you can have action or behavior. But this individual, they don't have the understanding, they don't have the strategy to control their thought. So they move along, whatever comes to their mind, they are acting on it. Is this thought right? Is it adaptive? Is it maladaptive? They don't have the strategy to control their thought. Another thing very common among them is that they cannot show empathy. Empathy is actually lacking it. They demonstrate empathy. Individuals that are high on emotional intelligence demonstrate empathy. They can actually empathize with people. They can practice attentive listening. They, as much as possible, can read other people's feelings. And with this, they can also go a long way in helping other people to be more productive, to be happier, and to be mentally stable. Now, they give helpful or constructive criticism and feedback. These individuals who are high on emotional intelligence, they are usually givers of constructive criticism. In any presentation where they are, they will give criticism to add value to the presenter and also add value to the presentation. They are sensitive to other people's feeling and behavior. They are easily able to read other people around them, if they are happy, if they are sad, if they are excited, and they could easily add value in such a situation. Now, show me someone who is high on emotional intelligence. I will show you someone who will always benefit from criticism. Whenever they make a mistake or whenever they have done something below expectation, they take positive criticism as room for development. Another factor or indices to find in these people is that they will apologize. They don't believe they know it all. When they make a mistake, they will easily apologize and they move on. Now, they protect themselves from emotional sabotage. These individuals have the capacity, whenever there is any issue around them, they are good in resilience. They can easily bounce back, thereby protecting themselves from emotional sabotage. They are good in self-awareness. They are conscious and understand their thoughts as it drives their feeling and behavior. They are very flexible and adaptable to new changes and environment. Like as we are seeing in our country today, no money, no fuel, you have to kill to buy money, to get fuel, to get PVC. Highly emotional, intelligent people can easily adapt to situations. They are looking for new strategies to operate in that environment without falling apart. Then they are generally optimistic and happy. In any situation, they believe there is hope. They are looking to a better tomorrow, and they are always happy individuals. Finally, they are good in social skills. They are very good in building relationship and maintaining relationship. And with this approach, they are able to promote good mental health between themselves and also better mental health for other people. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Kikumi Francis, for that. And I think people watching online currently now, you'll be able to rate yourself to see but you know, when he was talking about the resilience with everything that we are going through in the country currently, the question that was running through my mind is how much can we take? How much can an individual actually take? You know, when you are moving from one problem to another, and it's like we have not even been able to find our feet and our balance since the coronavirus and every other thing like that. How much? Looking at some of the conflicts that happened yesterday, people burning banks, and you know, the question that start coming to your mind is how much can we take? And so now let's look at it. What are the factors that now influences an individual's emotional intelligence? Dr. Moto just say, looking at what Mr. Kikumi Francis have reeled out, what are those things that makes us to just keep going on and on and on, and to have high level of emotional intelligence?
Thank you very much for this question. First of all, I'd like to say that so that we get the wrong conception that emotional intelligence is like a static thing. It grows, all right? No, none of us arrived at where we are at the moment, okay? At the same time or from the very beginning, all right? We acquire knowledge and we grow. And so that leads me to talk to you about some of the factors that I believe influence a person's emotional intelligence. The very first factor is your measure of self-awareness. I know that a lot of us talk about, I'm self-aware, I'm so self-aware, but you know, self-awareness is actually a function of understanding who you are, like I said earlier, all right? And it actually grows. How self-aware are you, all right? And I will use myself as an example, okay? So sometimes at the point, I realized that I was always getting irritable at certain times, and I just didn't know. Initially, I did not think it was a problem, right? Now just going about life like normal. Then one time I had to sit down to think that, why am I always very irritable at this time? And I realized that was when my glucose level was always low. Hungry led me. Anytime I was hungry, I was always quite irritable. But it took me a while to get to that point, all right? So your measure of self-awareness grows, all right? And it is a major factor of what influences your emotional intelligence. The second thing is your willingness to learn and adapt. The earlier speaker said that no one is an island of information. And a person with a high level of emotional intelligence is always willing to learn. It is a key factor. Willingness to learn, willingness to adapt to new situations, all right? You find yourself in a circumstance or in a new situation and you're asking yourself, do I use the method I used a month ago to approach the current problem, or do I and look at what is unique about this current problem, all right, and get the right knowledge. Okay, so your willingness to learn is a very key factor. My third factor is your level of exposure. Level of exposure to people, to knowledge and places. So, and that leads me to the fact to retrace the fact that says that yeah, emotional intelligence is not a static phenomenon. All right, so you can find a person who in a particular environment is highly emotionally intelligent, but finds himself or herself in another environment and is at a loss. And is asking himself or herself, I used to be very good. I used to be able to tackle, but this is a new situation. So imagine now, like you are a bank worker now, and this current situation in Nigeria, everybody's about, I need my money. I want my money. This situation like 3 months ago, right? A new situation and it requires a new level, an upgrade of your emotional intelligence application. So your level of exposure, you must desire to see more places, to know more people, all right? We are not an island. All human beings are not the same. You need to learn techniques, cultures. You need to read more. You need to get knowledge about places, people. If you cannot travel to see, you can buy a book to read, to learn more, to understand how other people think and relate. And that's in no small way improves our emotional intelligence. Okay. And my fourth factor is, so even if you have all these things and you do not have a desire to change or you don't have a desire to grow, you cannot have a very successful or a very stable emotional intelligence. All right. So you must have a drive for change. All right. You must be able to say that, okay, so even if I am performing highly, I am highly functional. I'm a high performer on this job with these skills, okay? And I can apply. But if I'm thrown in a new environment, will I be able to do it? All right. And that's why some of us don't like living our comfort zones because we don't want to apply it. We don't want to learn new things. We don't want to embrace new criticisms. We don't want to embrace, we don't like change, all right? But you must have a desire for change and growth, okay? In order for you to be able to have a good emotional intelligence. And I must say that emotional intelligence is not something you are born with, okay? Because a lot of us will be saying, oh, he's a born leader. Oh, he's a born negotiator. There is nothing like that, all right? It is not in a gene. It is something we all acquire, okay? And the levels of acquisition will vary, all right? It will vary from the resources that we are exposed to. So what resources are you exposed to? Some of us were privileged to be raised by highly emotionally intelligent parents. So we had a good background, all right? We learned by modeling, we learned by observation and the like. Then we were thrown into the school system, all right? We were exposed to knowledge, all right? And it's kept growing because of the other factors that I highlighted earlier. Thank you very much.
Dr. Moto, just thank you so very much. One thing I'm taking away from what she had said is one, it's not static. So don't think I have grown in age and in experience, and so that's it for me. She has told us it's not static. You might get into a new environment and you might need to just adapt and adjust in a different way. And so for what she had said, I hear her say adaptability and flexibility is key, very germane in your use of emotional intelligence. You must be flexible, you must be adaptable, you must learn to adapt. But when she was saying that again, another question was coming to my mind. How do we keep adapting to Baba tea? I don't understand. She will still tell us how we would keep adapting. But how do we keep adapting to Baba tea? All the time it's Baba tea that is happening. Maybe, she will tell us how to flexible and adapt. I think that's one key thing that I must take away from of this. But sometimes too, they will not say this person has no emotional intelligence, as in terms of ability to empathize, ability to understand, show emotion, and so many other things. It's not even self-aware. The person says something and it's so bad, and it's like, excuse me, why would you say something like that? And he said, no, I didn't know that it's bad. I can't just now. Mr. Akiko Francis, what happens when an individual doesn't have emotional intelligence? I've seen people say they don't have emotional intelligence. So what happens when an individual doesn't have emotional intelligence?
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Let me start by saying that the consequences of low emotional intelligence in an individual, in a family, in a community, even in a nation, can never be overemphasized. Because even let's start from in the workplace, an employee, if an organization has an employee that's low in emotional intelligence, such an employee over time, they are likely to contribute to the folding up of that organization because their inability to relate well with customers, to relate well with clients, to relate well with patients, over time we assort to their problem and increase their distress. So an individual, an employee who is low on emotional intelligence will be unable to accept feedback from the superior or colleagues. They may take feedback as a personal attack on their ego or character. Now let's look at when leadership position is filled with people who are low in emotional intelligence. What do we expect? At home or in such a home or in such a place where the leader is, such a place will be characterized by harassment, even verbal and physical abuse, intimidation, etc. So when a person is in leadership and the individual is low in emotional intelligence, of course, it's going to increase the other people around him, their vulnerability to mental health problem. Now let's look at an individual who is low in emotional intelligence. Such individual is more prone to poor physical and mental health challenges. Tell me someone who has suicidal thoughts or have attempted suicide or having depression, anxiety, substance dependence, even hypertension and ulcer. I'm likely to show you someone who is low in emotional intelligence. Why? Because people low in emotional intelligence are likely to internalize their problem rather than looking for a constructive way of solving them. And over time, is going to become another challenge is greater than the initial problem. What about in government when people are voted into power and they are low in emotional intelligence? They are likely to formulate trauma-focused policies that are inhumane, unfriendly, and their strategy will also be do or die affair, by fire, by force approach, without minding whose heart is God. And this is why it is important that people in government are people who are garnished with these characteristics and soft skills of emotional intelligence. In relationship and in marital challenges, even breakup among friends or couple is a common experience among people with low emotional intelligence. Show me a couple who constantly engages in battery or undue verbal abuse. I will show you people low in emotional intelligence. Parenting style from parents, either father, mother, uncle, that have low emotional intelligence are characterized by authoritarian parenting, and such children are likely to turn to drug abuse or drug dependence in the future. It is very, very important for us to also know that even in the spiritual dimension, people who are low in emotional intelligence may not be able to maintain a good relationship with God, because God has emotion. And also to make God happy, one must be able to promote positive emotion in God. So people who are low in emotional intelligence are likely to harbor unforgiveness, malice, hatred, bitterness to others. And all this is likely to mar their relationship with even God. So looking at it physically, socially, spiritually, even in workplace and organization, the consequences of being low in emotional intelligence is grievous.
Thank you, Mr. Kikomi Francis. from what he had said, it seems and it's looking like when an individual does not have emotional intelligence, it's not just affecting them, it affects very many other facets of their lives. And it tends to bounce around who this individual is and how well they are able to function. It's not just in government alone, or leaders. Generally, when we talk about leaders who heads parastatals or different roles, or when you have a father or a mother as a leader who is also not able to have a very high level of emotional intelligence, then you would also find out some of the things that he had spoken about. And these are very germane issues, because when you have an individual who has very low level of emotional intelligence, then the repercussive effects or the consequences, it's going to be grievous. That means the people underneath them will suffer. I see someone here who has been writing, that person will be a narcissist. And no, they definitely will have features that resonate so much with people who are narcissistic in traits. So personality disorder too. So that could also be something that we will be looking at, as an offshoot of this discussion. There are lots of questions and comments on the box. On the chat box. We will take them as we move on in this conversation. And I know we are so eager and itching to share our voice, our thoughts. But please just share your thoughts on this chat box. I will be able to take them. And then if you have comments and questions, we would also be able to take them too. Questions on how to build and when life happens to us. We'll take all of that before we end this webinar today. But let's just move on. Dr. Moto Jesse, how can we use emotional intelligence now to ensure mental stability? The offshoot of what we're talking about is emotional intelligence and tallying it with mental stability. How can we use emotional intelligence to ensure that mentally or emotionally we are stable? Thank you.
Thank you for this question. I would like to take a point from what the previous speaker said. And he mentioned that we talk about when we have leaders that are bent on inducing trauma through policies. And I couldn't but help to burst into laughter. All right. Okay. And here we are asking that, okay, how do we have mental stability when there are people that are bent on uprooting, offsetting our mental abilities at all costs? What do we say? We say no, we must be mentally stable. So I'm going to just talk about it first by defining what mental health is, because we really cannot be talking about mental stability without knowing what mental health is. So briefly, mental health basically, all right, is a balance of our emotions, our feelings, our behaviors, all right, in order to enhance our personal productivity, our interpersonal relationships, and our ability to function in the community at large, all right? That is what mental health is in a nutshell, okay? So what is mental stability? All right, mental stability is your ability to be able to function, all right, at a relatively optimal level of mental health, despite, okay, the internal or external factors, okay, that you are encountering. All right, so what is the business of emotional intelligence with mental health and mental stability? How that emotional intelligence is like the superpower, is our superpower in having mental health, irrespective of the seasons. All right, we're not promised stable seasons all the days of our lives. All right, we're not promised rosy seasons. Even as an individual, there are days you don't have money in your pockets. All right, even though you work very hard and you earn very high, you do not have enough money to meet certain needs. All right, so we are not promised rosy seasons 365 days of the year. All right, so there will be highs and low seasons of life. But do we continue to destabilize our mental health based on the seasons of life? All right, do we remain cranky? Do we become cranky all the time because we do not have money? All right, so this is where emotional intelligence comes into play. It is our ability to be conscious of the pillars of emotional intelligence that I said earlier. Okay, so maybe some did not hear us at the beginning. All right, I'll just list them out again. Okay, our ability to be self-aware, our ability to have self-regulation of our moods, all right, our ability to be empathetic, all right. So in a situation like we are in Nigeria now, we all are facing the same thing. So there's no intelligence in being aggressive towards your colleague at work because you don't have naira in your pocket, all right? So being empathetic, all right? Motivational, being able to inspire yourself in spite of the circumstances, all right? Your social skills, being able to upgrade the social skills. Okay, so trauma-focused policy, how do I upgrade my social skills at this point in time in order to be able to, optimize my mental health? And how do I communicate effectively? All right, I don't have money in my pocket. Have not been able to get fuel in my car, all right, to be able to come. I can't pay the conductors to come to work. Do I tell my boss at work and just begin to rage? Excuse me, don't you know what's in Nigeria? Don't you know what is this? And be shouting, all right? How will I be able to communicate myself, express it to this individual who is also feeling the impacts of this policy, all right? Effective communication. So by and large, our superpower of our mental stability, of our good optimal mental health functioning at every given time is our emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Superpower. There's this song we used to sing when we were in the nursery school then, superpower, superpower. And that's what I heard Dr. Moto Jesse say. We will still go on into how to use that superpower to balance all that we are going through now, because when you don't have cash and you don't have money, I don't know, that emotional intelligence that will help you to keep calm. But she mentioned something which is also very germane: self-regulation, emotional regulation, self-regulation in times when situations are difficult and it's not moving and balanced like you would want it to be. She would still come back to tell us so much about that. But now let's look at how do we build an effective emotional intelligence skill overall. Now, how do we build our emotional intelligence skill to get us to the point where we can maximize it as a superpower, like Dr. Moto Jesse spoke about earlier, Mr. Kikumi Francis.
Once again, thank you very much, Mrs. Akitoshi. Now, one very important thing that I want our listener to be aware of is we can develop our level of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence can be learned. It is something we can acquire through training and learning. And I'm going to run through some of the strategies you can use to develop your emotional intelligence, as well as what parents can do to bring forth children that are garnished with high level of emotional intelligence. Now, to develop emotional intelligence, learn to practice self and emotional awareness. From time to time, learn to be aware of yourself. What do I mean by that? Be aware of your thoughts. What are the thoughts running through your mind at a particular time? Be aware of the feeling associated with the thoughts. Also be aware of your action, your strengths, your weaknesses, as well as what triggers them. If you are having a thought that is negative or is positive, look inward and identify what is actually triggering such a thought. Be aware of when you are happy, when you are sad, when you are angry, and what could have triggered those emotions. Practice to have objective assessment of how you perceive yourself as well as how others perceive you. This practice of self and emotional awareness is the fundamental of building emotional intelligence. Now, another way to also develop our emotional intelligence has to do with people around us. Let us also learn to read other people's emotions. Begin to train yourself to read the facial expression and body language of people and to respond appropriately. The issue is that most of the time, the thoughts and feelings in individuals manifest in their facial appearances. And it is from observation you can know, even from the affect of facial appearance of an individual, whether the person is happy, whether the person is angry, whether the person is sad. For example, if you get to the office in the morning and you see your boss is angry, that is not the time to go and meet him and make a request. You must learn to read other people's emotion. Even dogs, animals, sometimes they run away from their master when they see that their master or their owner is angry. Even animals could read emotion of their master. So it is important that you learn from time to time to read emotion, especially the facial and the non-verbal cues, body language of people around you. With this, it will guide you in making appropriate decision and action. Now, another thing you can also do to develop your emotional intelligence is to monitor your emotion and thoughts from time to time. Your thoughts and feelings are very important, and mostly positive thoughts are likely to produce positive feelings, while negative thoughts are likely to produce negative feelings. You must be able to look inward and monitor when you wake up in the morning. For example, for a depressed patient in the morning who wakes up and is feeling sad, you'll be able to look inward and monitor what is the reason why you are sad, or if you are having anxiety, you're having worries and fear, why are you having such a fear and worries? Ability to monitor your thoughts and write them down will go a long way to start helping you to ask questions. Why this thought? Why this feeling? And over time, it will help you to master the strategy to overcome such a thought and feeling. Another very important way to also learn to practice emotional intelligence has to do with attentive listening. Learning to pay undivided attention to others during communication will produce feelings of being appreciated from the speaker. Just listening with undivided attention while the other person speaks is part of empathy, and it can be therapeutic. Learn to practice attentive listening. In other words, learn to listen to people with undivided attention. Just listening without talking can go a long way in helping the recovery of the speaker. What about learn to practice self-control? Learn to delay gratification. Engaging in delaying your gratification is part of building emotional intelligence. And you see, most times you find some people, because of the urge, because of the gratification of what they are going to get from smoking, without thinking of the consequences, they go into it. But at the end of the whole thing, the consequences is usually more than the enjoyment. So in emotional intelligence, for somebody who wants to be good in practicing emotional intelligence, you are not only concerned with the action or with what you want to do, but you want to ask yourself some questions. Is this the right thing to do? Is this the right time to do it? Is this the right place to do it? Is this the right person that should receive this thing? This question will help you to then make informed decision, either to do or to not to do such a thing. Now, positive thinking and self-motivation is another thing. Always maintain a positive and optimistic mindset. No matter what is going on in Nigeria, just tell yourself that this tough time will pass. Just tell yourself that you are going to be the one that will overcome this situation. Having a motivation, a driving force, and a positive mindset is going to go a long way in boosting positive feelings and emotion in you, and also positive behavior. Lastly, practice meditation. Learn to practice mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation has to do with moment-to-moment awareness in a non-judgmental way. Being in the moment, being in the present, it will go a long way in connecting you with compassion and also boosting positive emotion in you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Kikomi Francis. I hope we took notes of all that he had said. The first thing I hear him say is you must be aware. Awareness is key. What is going on around within, you start from what's going on within you to what is now going on around you. When you're aware, you're familiar with what's going on within you, then you can now externalize that to all outside, and then you can be able to talk about what is going on around you and begin to become more conversant with that. And it finalized its discussion with meditation, a moment to moment awareness. And I love that because it says you are constantly in tune with yourself. Moment to moment awareness helps you to be constantly in tune with yourself to the point where you can be able to do all that you need to do. All right, so there are several comments here on the chat burst. I just want to, yes, some are just comments. Yes, that's narcissistic. I've talked about that earlier. Yes, thank you, Yaba Voice self-rating. That's good. Thank you, Temitope Ojopelo. I'm sorry if I didn't get that very well. Omotayo says so many things to learn, to adjust, and to adapt. I agree with you. What can we do to build our resilience in order to build our emotional intelligence? Dr. Mutajes, will you quickly just take that? What can we do to constantly build our resilience in order to build our emotional intelligence? Let's just take that in 1 minute.
Okay, so in addition to a lot of strategies that Mr. Francis has told us already, okay, I would like to say that in building resilience, all right, you must be able to be adaptable, okay, adaptable to new situations and be able to look at yourself. So it's like a person who goes to war, all right, and the techniques of war suddenly change. To be able to see that, how do I re-strategize to win the war? Okay, all right, so, and that is how resilience is built. They are being able to be adaptable to situations, all right? As the situations change, you surmount it. And just to be able to apply, okay, because this, like I said, this is a very good opportunity, all right, because of what is going on in Nigeria, all right? Just to reiterate, when COVID happened, okay, there were so many problems, lockdown and all. But post-COVID, we've seen a lot of wonderful innovations, all right? So I always say, in every crisis, there is an opportunity for something bigger. And so, in perspective of your resilience and your innovation, I can't wait to see, okay, the beautiful products that will be developed post our money policies, our fuel crisis, and the myriad of challenges we have in Nigeria at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that, Dr. Mojidesi. Adaptability, flexibility are key things. And I love the example that she used, just go back to the drawing board, see what you can do again. This is not working. How can I change it? And that's what we need to do to be able to build up our resilience. Thank you so very much. Oyeronke says, how do we demonstrate the emotional intelligence in us when life happens? And I think that's what Dr. Omoto just addressed now. Great. However, some individuals are born with some high level of emotional intelligence than others. Dr. Omoto talked about the factors. So I wanted to just quickly address that too. Quickly, 1 minute. Is it that some people are born with higher emotional intelligence?
Okay, so at the moment, okay, research has not been able to identify any specific gene for emotional intelligence, all right? So we will not say it is hereditary, but it is a learned behavior, all right? So in psychology, we talk about a lot of learning techniques, okay, classic, observational, operational, and all right? So it is a thing. So if you are opportune, okay, so you look at a little is born. A little child that is born and is going through the growing of life does not have emotional intelligence except it is taught or observed. All right. So a child can throw a tantrum for not being given a biscuit, but it can be taught that, oh, you must learn to have delayed gratification. All right. So you wait a little, okay, for mommy to get this biscuit for you. It is a learned behavior. So if you are opportune to have good highly emotionally intelligent parents, leaders, teachers, early on, you may be able to catch on early and then you may be said to be a naturally born, emotionally intelligent person. So it is a learned behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. So the trick to this is being able to get on with it as early as possible. There are books on emotional intelligence. Mrs. Oye, thank you so much for that. I know our library is also equipped with that. We have a book on resilience, especially in times like this. That is from a medical director. One of our speakers here, Mr. Tukumi Francis, also has a book on emotional intelligence, looking at the cultural and the spiritual dynamics in all of that. So you could also reach out to them, and then they will be able to help you begin to build up on your emotional intelligence. Temitope, I love the explanation you gave here about being angry and taking a brisk walk. As long as you're able to talk to yourself, self-regulate at that point in time, that helps you to be able to push through, and then you're able to move on very well. And that's also resonates with what Dr. Moto Jesse just said earlier about some learning techniques. We know we learn, we see that it's working, and then we keep applying it. If it's not, then we'll find other resources. Mama Oshinawa says, thank you. A fantastic and timely presentation. Congratulations to the medical director. And that this emotional intelligence is a knowledge and skill that we need to be able to transmit to a whole lot of people at this point in time. We're doing our best, Mama, to ensure that this presentation is gotten out. Everybody is our vanguard here. And so with what we have discussed today, let's take it back to our churches, our families, our environment. It transmits from there. Leaders are in every area. It doesn't have to be at Abuja alone or at the federal level. No, we have leaders at every level, even at the workplace. There are leaders there, and then we need to be able to do quite a whole lot for them. Ms. Zoye, thank you so very much too. Naji Gabriel, Innocent, yes, these are comments for our presenters, and it's kudos and for a very well done delivery. Very opportune topic was EI at play when this lecture was planned prior to current situation in the country. No. Honestly, we had this discussion on the 3rd of January, and this topic was part of the topic that was rolled out for the year. And it was not, we were not thinking about it. We would have just termed ourselves magicians if we have that power. But no, this wasn't even just in the pipeline. What we are currently experiencing wasn't in the pipeline when we talked about emotional intelligence. So thank you so very much, Alison, for that. Aderoke says emotional intelligence can be caught up early. Yes, that's what Dr. Moto Jesse explained earlier. Thank you, Temitope, for learning so much today. Mrs. Jumoke, thank you too also for learning so very much today. So we'll talk last word from our presenters, our speakers on today's topic. Let me start with Mr. Akikumi Francis. What's your last word for our guests on this webinar today?
So finally, I want to thank everyone on the platform. Finally, I want to thank everyone this afternoon on this platform. My last word is let us engage in learning and practice emotional intelligence. Let us turn the skill of emotional intelligence good mental health.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kumi Francis. Yes, we need to be able to apply, especially with what we are going through. A lot of people have not been able to japa. And so if you are here in this country, we need to just find a way to apply emotional intelligence for our own mental stability, so that after everything is over, you will be able to function and move on. Dr. Moto, Jesse, your last word.
All right, thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I would like to use this as my last word, because somewhere, I feel I'm hearing some people think that, so am I supposed to be stupid? So when somebody throws a fist at me, why can't I just return it immediately? All right. So are you trying to turn me to a stupid Nigerian? No, we're trying to turn you to a more intelligent Nigerian. Okay. In order to be able to look at problems, okay, and with the right solutions. Okay. And I also like to leave this word. No one is responsible for your actions. No one can tell you how to behave. You are the only one who can determine how you will behave. All right. So understand your emotions and give an appropriate reaction at every opportunity you have. Thank you so much.
So Dr. Moto Jesse is a mind reader now, because somebody just responded. I felt the same way some days ago. Thank you, Dr. Moto Jesse. And I think this is also very appropriate. With a higher level of emotional stress going on, people can become so volatile. But please remember, she just said now, you're responsible for your own emotional responses and reactions, so you can control them. You don't have to throw a fist because somebody threw a fist at you. No, we can learn to just manage all of those things. So thank you so very much, organizers. Okay, please, you can. Some people chatted and said they're trying to join and they couldn't join. Network issues most likely. So we are sorry about that. For whatever technicalities, that's not just within our control. But this YouTube, the YouTube page of the Yaba Voice will be open as soon as we finish this, and so you could head there, and then you can get the recording of this webinar. Yaba Voice, one word, on the YouTube page, it will be there. On Facebook, we will also share the video of this webinar there, so you can reassess, you can listen and listen. Tokpa, you're not the only one who took notes. I also took notes too. See, my notes is there. So because we all need to be able to function well at this point in time. The physician also needs to heal thyself with what we are going to. We're all in the same ship at this point in time. So thank you so very much. Until we come your way again, next month we have something very beautiful for us. And then we'll be looking at women's mental health. What are the causes and what are the interventions? There are some peculiar mental health conditions that are germane to females or being a woman. What are they? What causes it? And what can we do to get out of that? That's what we'll be looking at by the next webinar, by God's grace. Hopefully, God keep us safe. Nigeria will still be standing. The fuel scarcity will be over, and then the morning crunch will also be over, and then you and I will be back here together to tell our story. But until then, keep ensuring that you employ emotional intelligence so that we're able to flow through this period, knowing that this time too will pass. Until we come your way again, on behalf of the Medical Director, Dr. Lubengade Kileweye, the Head of Clinicals, Dr. Luane, and every member of the Yaba Voice team, I want to say thank you to our speakers. Thank you to everyone for being on this call with you. Please stay safe, take care of yourself. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.